Dun 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 dun! The Ox is back! Oh my God, it's been forever since I've talked to you people. You two or three possibly people that aren't related to me. But lots have happened since we've talked before. Last time we talked, it was before basically the world got turned on its end. And before the pandemic, before T-Bone's procedure, and before everything, all right? So, like we always say, we're not a political show, but, we got to touch on some of the stuff. This has been obviously a struggle for everybody. We're going on at the end of the fourth week. It's a Monday. There's 2 games tonight because of the pandemic and tested positive and whatnot. Cam Newton and a couple other people, and they canceled, they postponed the Titans and the Pittsburgh Steelers game. Of course they did, because if you play for the Tennessee Titans, you live and work in Nashville. Okay, so there's a hell of a lot more diseases in that city than the COVID-19. I can promise you that. But like I said, the T-Bone had a little procedure, a little penile implant situation, and he was, we were supposed to start before the season, but he had to, rest and recover, but he'll be fine. And then the T-Bone, he moved to a new address. What's the name of the street you moved to, Thomas?
Broad Street.
Broad Street. Oh, I bet you think you're going to get a lot of leg. Where do you? You're in the bars and you say, "Well, where do you live?" "Oh, I live on Broad Street." "Oh, like all the broads are in your apartment." Well, I tell you what, I live on Horsecock Road, and they're going to come to my house before they come to your apartment. I can promise you that. All right, so T-Bone, do we have any email questions from any of our listeners?
Yeah, we got some inbox.
Okay, inbox. I like the sound of that. All right. So who's it from?
CJ Bothways.
Oh, you're kidding me. Okay. Oh, yeah, I see it here. It says, okay, here's CJ Bothways' question. And she's a Lions fan. Oh, my God. Hopefully she doesn't have any rope in her house, because she'd probably hang herself. But it says, this is about my Lions. Do any former Detroit Lions coaches ever been hired by another team? If so, why? Ooh. Well, I assume she's talking about head coaches. So the answer to that is no. Since 1960, the Detroit Lions, every head coach of the Detroit Lions has never, ever gone on to another team to be the head coach. That is 60 years, man. That's rough. That is really rough. That's, you know what? The Lions are, I think we've talked about this before. I think, well, I think they did win the NFL championship before the Super Bowl in 1960s area, maybe late 50s, early 60s. Obviously, the Cleveland Browns were a juggernaut back then. But, man, you might want to just fall on the sword if you're a friend. If you raise your kid to be a Browns, Lions, and I'm going to put the New York Football Jets in there, to be fans, you should be locked up for child abuse. No question. I think I might have said that before, but I'm going to reiterate it because, come on. T-Bone. So your answer is no, CJ, both ways. And I feel sorry for you. But, since you go both ways, I'm sure you got a lot of things going on in your life. So you're probably pretty busy not to pay attention to the Detroit Football Lions. Okay, I got a trivia question for you, T-Bone, and then we'll get into the nuts and bolts about the season so far.
Yeah.
Okay, now there's been several teams that have won 4 Super Bowls. Okay? I want you to tell me which is the only franchise in the Super Bowl era that has won 4 Super Bowls in 4 consecutive decades. Decades. Okay, you know what a decade is, right, T-Bone? Don't take too long on this because, this is valuable airtime. We pay for everything around here.
Isn't it the Giants?
Whoa! Check out the brain on the T-Bone. Get out of Dodge, man. Yes! So, as much as we want to crap all over the Giants, and they deserve to be crapped on, they won in the 80s, 90s, the 2000s, and the 2010s. So that's probably why, they have a lot of rope in their house and they don't have to worry about it. Okay? But, the San Francisco 49ers would probably say something different. Can you believe the whining of that franchise? And I'm going to tell you something. It's not just this past couple of weeks because they're having to play at MetLife 2 weeks in a row. And oh my God, our players are getting injured because the grass is so bad. Are you freaking kidding me? And their head coach, Kyle Shanahan, who's the son of Mike Shanahan, Silver Spoon coach. The thing I hate about him, mostly, if you put a baseball hat on, form the visor. Okay? Could you just form the visor? Where do you live? Where do you live? In the hood? Okay? What are you leaving the labels on? Form the visor so you look like a regular guy. All right? But no, he'd rather just complain and whine. So from now on, until I see differently, they're not the 49ers, they're the 40 whiners. Okay? A bunch of Marys. Okay? Oh, I blew out my ACL. Hey, no training, no summer practice, all that kind of stuff. You know what? As my grandmother used to say to me, wipe your pussy and go home. Okay? But that being said, I think I'm done with my diatribe, and let's get into the season. Wow. After what I said at the end of last season, I gotta send an olive branch to the mistake on the lake, the Cleveland Browns. They came out and they looked like the Cleveland Browns the first week, but the last 3 weeks they've actually looked pretty impressive, and they put a beating on the Cowboys yesterday, and which was good. So I have to give them credit because they are extremely sensitive up there, and so maybe I can get the 2 people that used to listen to me back on the show. Okay, but we'll start with that division. So, the Browns 3-1, the Ravens also 3-1. Kind of got exposed a little bit by the Chiefs last week, but you know what? They're squared away. They last time we talked, that was before, I think, the playoffs. So I think I was really riding the Ravens high, and I still am. I think Jackson still has to get a little bit better, but he's such a weapon. He really is such a weapon. But they're good. Pittsburgh seems to be back. I don't know if they've actually beat anybody worth beating. I mean, you thought that when they beat Houston, but now all of a sudden Houston's 0-4. So we'll get into the hot coaches, the hot seats later. But Cleveland, they're 3-1, man. They're right in there, right behind Pittsburgh. Well, even though Pittsburgh's 3-0 because, like we talked just a few seconds ago about the Titans in Nashville. But don't sleep on the Bengals, man. I tell you, this kid Joe Burrow, he looked great last year, and he won his first game yesterday. He probably should have won last week against Philly. And I think, which is strange to say, because I think their ownership is a bunch of, well, you know how I feel about their ownership. They're not good, okay? But you know what? I think their ownership is better than Cleveland, that says a lot about Cleveland's ownership. But the AFC North is going to be a powerhouse. It's probably going to turn into what the NFC West is. And the NFC West did not disappoint so far this year. Russell Wilson is playing out of his mind. He is phenomenal. But he has no defense. And eventually, that's going to catch up with him. All right? It's going to catch up with him. Okay? San Francisco lost a lot of defensive players. Of course, we know because they cried and whined and all that kind of crap. But I think they'll take a step back, and all of a sudden the LA Rams look like the LA Rams, even though the New York Football Giants gave them quite a game yesterday and had a chance to take the game, but I guess we're still going in the wrong direction. And actually, the Cardinals, who started off great, kind of took a step back last 2 weeks, getting beat by Detroit at home. Whoo! You don't want that on your resume. Oh, how'd you do? Oh, I got beat by Detroit at home. Yeah. That's like well, like the really hot barmaid you took home, and she ends up having a penis, and that's something you don't really want to share with your friends. So that's kind of like losing to the Detroit Lions at home. It really is. It's something you never want to talk about. So, but then they lost again to the Carolina Panthers, and nobody's talking about the Carolina Panthers. They come in, they get rid of Cam Newton, and they go with Teddy Bridgewater, and what's his name, Christian McCaffrey goes down, but they've won 2 games. They're 2-2. I mean, that's amazing. Rookie coach, he coached 1 year in the NFL, which happened to be for the New York Football Giants as like an offensive line assistant. It wasn't even like he was the coach of the line. He was the assistant coach of the line. So, but yeah, so they're doing good. They're doing good too. They're going in the right direction. But so the NFC West and the AFC North, okay, we've talked about them. Now let's talk about the NFC North. Aaron Rodgers is back. I had all the confidence in the world that he would be back. He's starting to run out of targets because they drafted his replacement, which I thought was a huge mistake. But it obviously lit a flame under him, and he's playing well. Minnesota is definitely took a step back, even though I think they have the best running back in the league in Delvin Cook. And I'm not just saying that because he's on my fantasy football team. I'm just saying that because if you watch him play, this dude is an animal. He's great. And, of course, you got the both-way CJ Detroit Lions there, and they're stuck in whatever. And to me, the Chicago Bears are a sham. They were 3-0 coming into the weekend, and the Indianapolis Colts came to Chicago and really put a beat down on them. They were terrible. They are absolutely terrible. So they're going the wrong way. I think Green Bay is going to run away with that division, and what's going to happen is Green Bay's, if they win enough games, when I think they will, because the NFC West is going to beat each other up and they're going to lose to each other, the NFC Championship might have to go through Green Bay, which is pretty cool. And then we'll go to the NFC South, oh, God, Tom Brady in Tampa. Oh, he's thrown 2 pick sixes in 4 games. I don't know how many pick sixes he's thrown in the last 4 years when he was with New England. But I think they're going in the right direction. I think their defense is good. The Saints, I think the Saints has taken a major step back. I think Drew Brees, even though he had a nice week this week, you can just tell, man. You can tell. I know, Michael Thomas is out, who is the best receiver in the league. They just don't do it. They just don't do it. So, but they got Atlanta, who is. They just find ways to lose games. And their coach is defensive-minded coach. He was part of the Legion of Boom, Seattle Seahawks coaching staff, and he was the defensive coordinator. And I like him. I like him as a coach. But man, they just lose games in the fourth quarter. It's insane. And they lost to the Cowboys on this crazy onside kick. Nobody these days with the new safety rules recovers onside kicks. So they had this watermelon kick, they call it, right? So they put the ball flat. It's not on a tee, standing up. And they spin it, and all those guys just watched it like they were watching a cockfight. And I was like, is anybody going to jump on that rooster? Anybody going to jump on that rooster? No. Except for the Cowboys. And the Cowboys won. Cowboys should be 0-4. Can you believe that? And they have scored so many points and thrown for so many yards. But their defense sucks. Well, okay, which brings us to the NFC, as everybody likes to call it today, NFC least. Oy, oy, oy. Used to be a terrorist group, for crying out loud. It was like a cyber cell back in my day. Now, not so good. Washington, they got a lot of work to do. The Giants, yeah, you can play as hard as you want. You're still 0-4, okay? Please. And the quarterback just cannot stop giving the ball away, which is a problem, which is a major problem. And the Cowboys, which, of course, I'm shedding tears for, they just, they can't stop nobody. They get down and they come back and they score a lot of points, but they're turning the ball over. Elliott keeps dropping the ball, which is not really like him. And Philly had a big win last night. I got to give them that, you know. But Philly's a tough team. So I think it runs through Philly. But if one of these teams wins 8 games this year, I'd be shocked. If we play that many. Okay, I would be completely shocked. But, okay, so now what did we do? We did the AFC North. Okay, let's go with the AFC East, okay? And we'll start with the Buffalo Bills. Man, they got this crazy quarterback from the middle of nowhere. He's just big and mean and nasty, and he wants to play. He's got a cannon for an arm. And they're 4-0. And their coach is super squared away. He's a former Marine, little guy, but I wouldn't mess with him. Okay, I'd probably ask you to mess with him if we got in a confrontation. But their defense is good. They made some nice moves in the offseason. They get good receivers and whatnot, and their line is pretty good. But this kid he can jump over a building. Okay, and he's just like he's 6'6", 6'7", big giant country boy from I think South Dakota or something like that. But he's good. His 3rd year in the league, doing great. Jets are a dumpster fire that spreads to another dumpster. They are absolutely hideous, okay? There is no, it just, you look at them and there was like, well, who's running this team? I mean, what's going on? Sam Darnold, to me, has talent. I like him. He can run. He can throw. He had a run the other night that it was like running back-esque. It was like Odell Beckham, like running through for 46 yards. It was incredible. Okay, juking people, all this kind of stuff. And they lost to Denver with a 3rd-string quarterback that has never started a game ever in his life except for college. Okay? I mean, come on. At home, you lose to the Denver Broncos with a 3rd-string quarterback, and their best player is on injured reserve, Von Miller. The Jets are terrible. We're going to bring the Jets back in. And Miami's going in the right direction. Absolutely. Great coach. I think it's almost time for them to get Tua Tagovailoa into the lineup. I hope he's healthy enough to do it. They're still playing Ryan Fitzpatrick, who went to Harvard. He's got the big beard. That dude, I think, has played 14 years in the NFL. You can tell he went to Harvard. He's the smartest guy out there. He keeps getting paid. So let's do some math. 14 years in the league. Okay, first couple of years he probably didn't make a lot of money. But the Jets gave him a big contract. Buffalo Bills gave him a big contract. Miami gave him a big contract. And there was one other team that gave him a big contract. This guy has probably made $70 million in his career. $70 million. Okay? There's a lot of Harvard grads that don't make $70 million in a 14-year career. So he's a pretty smart dude. They're going the right direction. They really are. They got a lot of draft capital. They got a lot of good young players. And they got the quarterback they think of the future. He's very, very accurate. He's not a big guy. You're going to have to protect him. But they're going. And then, of course, the greatest franchise in the NFL. Probably, people could talk about the Packers in the 60s and all that kind of stuff, and the Steelers in the 70s, and the Niners in the 80s, and even the Cowboys in the early 90s, okay, before the owner just completely cut off his head despite his face. The Patriots, they come out, they reinvent themselves. So many people opted out because of the coronavirus. Their best player on defense did, a couple other players. And what are they doing? They're winning, okay? Now, are they going to win the division? Not so sure, because this year there's an extra playoff team, T-Bone. I didn't know if you knew this. So usually there's 6 per conference, okay? The 4 division winners and 2 wild cards. This year, 4 division winners and 3 wild cards. So, in order to get the first week bye in the playoffs, you have to be the number 1 team in your conference. So last year it would have been the Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers. Okay? I'm sorry. You should find me. Every time I say Niners, you got to find me $700 after today.
All right.
It's the 40 Winers. Okay? And I know you will find me. So there's a big emphasis on being the best team. Teams are going to play all the way to the end. But I think the Patriots will end up being in the playoffs. And, if Cam Newton is playing the way he's played, even though he's tested positive, hopefully this will pass, I wouldn't want to play that team. Cam Newton's an animal. He's like 6'6", 250. And he seems like he can throw, but he runs over people. He's like the kid. He reminds me a lot of the kid from Buffalo. Except, Cam has gotten beat up because he's played in the league so long. But, okay, so let's go, we'll go to the AFC South, okay, which is, the Titans, okay, who probably will test positive every other week, because how do you not go out on Broadway? Anybody who's been to Nashville, you know what I'm talking about. You got them, who's I think a good team, really good coach. I've talked a lot about him, and the quarterback seems to be stabilized a little bit, and they got a decent defense. We'll see how they go. The Colts, I think, are a real sleeper team to be a Super Bowl team. As long as Phillip Rivers doesn't implode. And there's been a lot of stats on him, like he never leaves the pocket. And he was the quarterback for I'm going to call him the San Diego Chargers, since 2004, when the Roethlisberger and Manning came out. But their defense is really good, and they have, without question, the best offensive line in football. Not to mention a decent running game and good playmakers. So their coach is just this cerebral, really laid-back guy who was a backup quarterback for most of his career, but when he was called on, always produced. So he's a good guy. He's good. Jacksonville, I love this guy Gardner Minshew, the quarterback. I think he's from Alabama. Okay, and I don't like a lot of things about Alabama, but I like this guy. This guy's got personality. And he's got this porn stash, which is great. And he's always wearing a headband. And he plays really, really hard. And he plays well. Do I think he's the future? He could be. They went up to the team I just bragged about, the Colts, and beat him first week of the season. So, he's fine. So we'll see what happens there. And then there's the Houston Texans. Such a disappointment. 0-4. People say, they've been 0 something. They've never been 0-4. They actually, I'm sorry, I'll correct myself. About 4 years ago, they were 0-4. And they go on streaks and they win. And they had a hard schedule. No kidding. Kansas City opening night, Baltimore, at Pittsburgh. But how are you losing to Minnesota at home? Come on. So could be a hot seat down there. And then you want to go out to the West. It starts with Kansas City. I didn't pick them to win the Super Bowl last year. I thought it was going to be Baltimore. But Kansas City, they got everything right. They got everything going for them. They got a decent defense. Their offense is spectacular. Great coach, great kicker, and so they're going to be, obviously they are the team to beat, not only in the AFC, but I think in the league. But everybody can be beat, that's for sure. The Raiders, I don't think Derek Carr is the answer. I think they'll be moving on from Derek Carr unless he changes his ways. He's just not spectacular. When you really, really, truly need to play, he doesn't make it. So I think there's going to be some quarterbacks that are going to be available. We'll get to that in a few minutes. The LA Chargers, they got their quarterback. This kid, this rookie, he looks the part. He plays the part. He's going to be good. I hope it saves Anthony Lynn's job because I don't think they're going to have a lot of wins because of where who they play. But I think he's a good coach. I hope he survives it and gets to coach this guy longer. And then you got the Broncos. And I'm going to say it flat out. The Broncos are not going to win unless something crazy happens if John Elway's running the team. Great quarterback, unbelievable, legendary quarterback. John Wayne in cleats, no question. I don't know if he's just, that's like, Peyton Manning, Peyton Manning should go and run a team. Why? What makes you think you'd be good at it? Just because you're a good quarterback or great quarterback doesn't mean shit. So we just went through the league. So let's get on. I can't believe we're talking about this after the first quarter of the season, the first 4 weeks. Hopefully we get through all 4 quarters this year. I would love for that to happen. Coach is on the hot seat already, man. Unbelievable. And it starts right with the New York Football Jets. Holy smokes. I still listen to a lot of New York radio. I love Jet fans because they're not happy with anybody. And whether you're a talk show host or just the regular guys, they want this guy out of here. They want Adam Gates gone. And, he has no personality. Coach Parcells had a personality. He went back at the media. Because that's probably the toughest place you can play, okay, is with the New York media. So say you played we'll use Jacksonville for an example, okay? There's 3 reporters from the local papers there in your locker room asking you questions. In New York, 12 to 15, okay? It's like, and they're nasty. They're worse. They will ask anything. Boston's kind of gotten that way too, but Boston's been winning, so they're like title town. He's definitely on the hot seat. Maybe I wouldn't fire him until the end of the season because if he's going to keep coaching like this, he should suffer just like every other Jet fan, and he should just get buried in this. So don't let him off the hook and say, well, we're firing and putting somebody else on the staff there. That doesn't do anything. Let the guy suffer. That would be my advice for whoever would ask me, but that wouldn't be anybody. And Jacksonville, Doug Marrone, Bronx boy. He coaches like he's from the Bronx, like he doesn't have a freaking clue. And I don't know about him either. I think he's going to be toast. And he should be toast, So then we'll move on to, obviously I said Anthony Lynn from the LA Chargers. I'm hoping he gets to stay. because I think he's a good coach and he's a good guy. I think he's a good motivator. I think he gets his players to where they should be, and I think he truly cares about them. I'm not saying these other guys don't care about their players, but at least this guy shows he cares. Okay. Matt Patricia in Detroit, they've already said it. We got to make the playoffs. Well, you're 1-3, bro, and you're not in the greatest division. Okay, so you beat the Bears. I think you can definitely beat the Bears. I don't think you can beat the Packers. They already blew you out of the stadium. So he might be back on the Patriots staff next year. Okay, which they usually do. They go out and they don't do well, and then they come back to the Patriots, and the Patriots win another Super Bowl. Because some people aren't ready to be a head coach or not good at a head coach. They're better off, sitting in a room. Because head coaches, they don't really do X's and O's. They do relationships with the media. They have to do these interviews. They're responsible to do these things. And, he's on the hot seat. Let's just leave it at that. No, let's see. Nobody else. Actually, I tell you what. I think Bill O'Brien might be on a hot seat in Houston. And they're 0-4. And if they have like a 4-12 season, even a 5-11 season, he's the GM. There's only one other guy who's the GM and the head coach, and that's Bill Belichick. This guy is the GM and the head coach of Houston. He used to coach under Bill Belichick. He's a smart guy, does a lot of good things. He's got a special needs kid, and he does a lot of stuff for that. But he's done some real head-scratching moves as a GM, trading a lot of people away, and he trades his best players. I don't know. That wouldn't surprise me. That would not surprise me at the end of the year. But as we are today, okay, NFC East, no. Ron Rivera just got there. He's great. He's a really good coach. He's what the Washington football team needs, Holy mackerel. I mean, really, you're going to change your name to the Washington football? You know what? If you were forced to change the name from the Redskins, because I think the Redskins is an iconic name, and I don't think anybody really had a problem with it. I don't think any Indian people had a problem with it. I think it was other people that weren't Native Americans that had a problem with it. And so they forced this guy because, he's got heavy influential co-owners. He owns most of the team, but it's almost like, I didn't know if you know this, but George Steinbrenner didn't own the entire New York Yankees. He had a lot of other owners, but he was I don't even know if he was the majority owner, but he was close to the majority owner, but he was the guy. This is what Daniel Snyder, even though he owns the most, the head of FedEx owns a lot of the Redskins, and some other big guy in another big company, a couple guys, and they were like, "Hey, got to get rid of this." So he's trying to save his ownership. So he says, "Okay, I'll change the name." All right, that shows me nothing. It shows you got no backbone. Okay, he made his money in some sort of whatever back in the '90s. Okay. Young guy. I mean, not as young as me, but pretty damn close. So he's forced to change his name, the name of the team. So just change it to the Skins. What's the big deal? The Skins. Is that offensive to anybody? Or Pigskins? Right? They play with a pigskin. Name it the Pigskin. So everybody still calls them the Skins. They're going to be some sort of Warriors or Red Dragons what? Grow some balls, man. Jesus. But their coach is safe. The Giants coach is safe. I think the Cowboy coach is safe for this year. The Cowboys have shown a lot of patience in coaches. Jason Garrett was there for 10 years. And, they won some, but they didn't win a lot. Mike McCarthy, I tell you one thing. I saw Mike McCarthy yesterday on the sidelines. Man, he's huge. Not as huge as the President of the United States, but pretty huge. And so he better lose some weight, or he's going to have a major heart attack on the sidelines. I mean, there should be a code for the coaches. You know, you can't be looking like this. You can't be looking so fat. You know, I mean, come on. There's a gym right down the hallway from your office. So you got him who's obese, for lack of a better word. Who else is obese? Doug Marrone, he's stocky. I wouldn't say he's obese. Let's see. Matt Patricia, he's borderline. He's definitely borderline. I tell you what, Joe Judge, to me, he looks like he's getting pretty big. You know, just because you're locked inside your house doesn't mean you have to eat the whole kitchen. Come on, Joe, get it together. You know, you don't want to have a heart attack. Look, Coach Parcells had a heart attack. That's why he left the Giants. Well, it wasn't a heart attack, but he had a heart condition. So he had blockages or whatnot. Even John Gruden, who was just like this little kid back when he started. You look at him now, man. He's packing on. He can lose 40 easy. He can lose 40, and Bill O'Brien could lose some weight. You know, Andy Reid, of course. Andy Reid, like, he has this big face shield on now. Okay, so I can see him like darken part of it out so he can eat a couple of cheeseburgers during like the second quarter and stuff. You know, but they just signed him to a massive extension. So, you know, hopefully he doesn't have a massive heart attack when they still got to pay him. But, you know, I mean, I'm not making that. This is, you know, it's a problem. I mean, if you drive through like Pennsylvania or Virginia, you see obese people. I mean, it's not like the volunteer state doesn't have some heavy hitters. Not in the cities, though. The cities, everybody seems pretty fit and trim. But, you know, you get out in the farm country, holy mackerel. They are some big people. But yep. Okay, so those are the hot seats as I see them. And I actually can see Sean Payton on the hot seat, who is my favorite scab in the history of the planet, even though he's not my favorite. But he's actually carrying around a nice little pouch. I'm sure he shops at non-union bodegas in New Orleans. Cheap bastard. But anyways, all right, so let's bring it back. Let's bring it back to the absolute pathetic football in the city of New York, my hometown. Yes, Giants are fighting 0-4. Jets, I can't say the same for the Jets, but they're still 0-4, okay? So the big ticket this year is supposedly this can't-miss quarterback out of Clemson. I talked about him last year. His name is Trevor Lawrence, okay? He's tall. He he has a 1980s hairband hairstyle. And he's tremendous. He's got a tremendous strong arm. He's got poise in the pocket. And for a big guy, he runs, and he's a really good runner. So at this point, I mean, and the SEC is playing football. Of course, the South always plays football. It doesn't matter if you're going to get sick and die. It doesn't matter. Okay? There has to be football. Okay? Friday Night Lights, Saturday day. You got to do it. So he's going to be, unless something crazy happens to him, the first pick of the draft. And I know I'm looking forward, but, you know, if you're 0-14, you're already looking forward to it. So, obviously, if the Jets are the worst team, and people are talking in New York about them going 0-16, so say they go 1-15, say they still have the number one pick in the draft, they're, I would assume, going to draft this guy. And then Sam Darnold will be somebody who is available, if not this upcoming year, which I assume that's where it should be, or the following year. Now, could you get a first-round pick for Sam Darnold? I'm not sure. I know you can get a second-round pick. But you know what? He's got a good resume so far, but I'm not sure. Okay, so let's bring it across the parking lot to the New York Football Giants. say they got the first pick. And yes, I do like Daniel Jones, I'm not going to lie. But the guy cannot stop throwing the ball to the other team or dropping the ball, which is the name of the game. You don't turn the ball over, you usually win. This guy cannot stop. He cannot stop doing it. He can make every throw. And he reminds me of Trevor Lawrence. He's the same size, he's got the same type of arm, and he's got the same type of legs. So if you got the first pick, do you go that way? Or do you get a king's ransom? And it could be the Jets too. Do you get a king's ransom? And when I say king's ransom, you're talking like 3 first-round picks, probably a couple of players. I mean, this is how good he's like an Andrew Luck when he came out, consensus guy. Peyton Manning, same. Well, actually, Peyton Manning wasn't a consensus because there was this guy, Ryan Leaf, who turned into be a complete scout. But I would go by Elway and Luck. These are the guys. But, and then Houston wouldn't do it because they got not Deshaun, what's his name? They got Watson, who actually also went to Clemson. Same as Trevor Lawrence. Different game, but not too different. Just that Lawrence is a bigger guy, taller. So it should be like everybody thought Jacksonville was going to be. We're gonna lose the games, but Jacksonville will probably end up winning a few games, so they'll probably be sitting in the top 5 somewhere. Jets and Giants to me are destined to be in the top 5 for like the 4th year in a row. That's pretty pathetic. I mean. The best part of the fact that I don't live in New York anymore is that I don't have to watch them play. I actually get pretty exciting games, But, it sucks. I mean, I've watched the Giants lose for my whole life, but I've also watched them win. And, that trivia question means a lot, If you get one Super Bowl every decade, you don't lose your fan base. If you're the Jets and you have one Super Bowl in 52 years ago, it gets a little rough. But they have one. Cleveland's got none. Detroit's got none. You can get the other teams that, haven't, been around long enough. Tampa has one. Tampa came around in 1976. Okay, not 1960. Okay, so. San Diego, they don't have any. They got AFC championships before they merged, but that's about it. But the Jets, they really are absolutely horrible. They might be one of the worst teams I've ever seen. Going back to when the Saints were terrible. Like the fans used to go to the game with paper bags on their heads with the cutouts for their eyes. And their mouths, of course, so they could put a beer in there. And they would call themselves the Aints, not the Saints. That's how bad they were. The Buccaneers were terrible, but then they got good. Other teams have had Detroit. When Barry Sanders played there, they were exciting. They were good. But that's a long time. Long time. You can't really judge the Houstons yet, because they've only been around since 2000. Jacksonville came in 95. They were good, though. They were good right off the bat, but they haven't made it there. Who came in with them? Jacksonville and... I can't remember. I should know this. Maybe it was only them. It might have just been only them. But, Seattle came in 76, the same year as the... Tampa Bay Bucks. They're like a winning franchise, man. They're great. So they got some work. They definitely have some work. People talk about Chicago and this. Chicago won one Super Bowl, the 85 Bears, and they were one of the best defenses ever. I don't think they were as good as the Ravens defense, and I really don't think they were as good as the 84 49ers defense. But they won that one, and they always just went Hollywood. They did. They were making videos and commercials. And they didn't do nothing after that. But they always talk about, when you see those guys, they always talk about how great they were. Well, you were great for one season, you know. You got to sustain it, like the Pittsburgh Steelers. 4 Super Bowls in 6 years. And the one in 75 was actually their best defense, but their offense got decimated. They lost both running backs, and I think they lost Bradshaw. They lost everybody. But their defense was incredible. Steel Curtain. What a name. What a name for a defense, the Steel Curtain. You know, it's like you're playing the Russians, for crying out loud. Not that I think the Russians are tough. I don't. Not these days. But back when I was a kid, they thought the Soviet Union was like, holy mackerel. But no, not anymore. Anyways, won't go political. But yeah, so there's a lot of teams that have been, and of course, not picking on them, the Cleveland Browns. You know, the Bengals suck too, but at least the Bengals made two Super Bowls and really had a chance to win one of them. Actually, kind of both of them, if you think about it. But that didn't happen. So, you have your dynasty teams. Minnesota was in the Super Bowl a lot, lost all of them. Buffalo the same way. I think Buffalo's going to change that, though, with this kid. I definitely think they're going to do it. But it would be nice to see the New York football come around a little bit. It's got to be pretty lousy, you know. But thank God for those New York Islanders, man. They gave New York something, even though they all hate them. But not me. But anyways, we'll slide off. I want to thank the Michigan CJ for sending your email. That's really nice. And guys, send your emails at the what is it, T-Bone?
theoxpodcast@gmail.com.
That's it. You heard it from the T-Bone, and you got to see this guy when he walks out of the shower after that little procedure he had. Holy mackerel. We put a little dust bunny on the end of his hoochie, and he does the floor at the same time. It's incredible. Well, you know, modern medicine is pretty good, so take advantage of it if you can afford it. All right, guys. We'll talk to you hopefully soon. Bye.